you couldn't just imagine. My heart sank. My belly wanted to like get sick. I couldn't believe it. And in that moment, I was just like, what? How are you surviving this? He goes, well, the only way that I can get myself out of bed is to know that I'm working on a mission that is going to help others. So this thing that happened doesn't get wasted. Oh my goodness, did that hit me? What you're building isn't just a brand, it's the work and story God trusted you to carry. Welcome to Heard in Heaven. I'm Ray Ireland, best-selling author, global speaker, and co-founder of Evolve Podcasting, where our clients have reached over 3 million downloads. This show is where Holy Spirit revelation meets CEO execution. So your message doesn't just inspire, it multiplies. It's time to speak with fire, shake the earth, and be heard in heaven. In the last episode, I promised that I would be sharing my own anchor story with you guys. So here you go. I want to give you a real life example of what an anchor story is, how you tie those pieces together that I shared about on last week's episode, and let's dive in. So I do want to say there's a trigger warning about suicide in this story, so just want to let you know before we get to that point. All right, so there was a moment where it really felt like everything broke. But before that, I got to tell you about what was happening in just January this year. It was so interesting because I was sharing with some friends how I felt like God's wind was at my back. It felt like things had finally just gotten locked into gear, and I really felt like I was running, like striding, and running a marathon, something far and long. And let's be real, I feel like I've been running basically for the last over a decade of being an entrepreneur. I don't know if you can relate to that, but I really felt like I was running and I didn't feel like I was out of breath. Like I felt this sense of like getting my pace, and I was still running fast, right? But I just felt like everything was starting to really make sense. Strategies were coming together. There were like blessings upon blessings coming in from our business, but also personal side of things. It was truly incredible. And I share this because that's where it all started. And I even was just getting out of kind of this like new mom body. For anyone that's a new mom or a mom, you can relate. Like it felt like it literally took about 2 years to get back into this place where all of a sudden in January, I was like, I feel like I am the strongest and like most beautiful I've ever been. Like everything was just in full bloom, right? That type of season. And it was amazing because I even got cast as a lead dancer in a production. And I'm like, yes, I'm dancing again. I'm singing again. I'm on stage speaking. We're doing our business. Like Sammy and I and Rafa were just like so good as a family, more in love with Sammy than ever before. All the good things. Health is going amazing. Okay. I could name everything, right? And then I broke my leg. And it was such a shock. I really couldn't believe it. When it happened, so I was dancing in a production and I was doing some partner moves and I ended up getting dropped by my partner. And when that happened, I just really didn't think it was that big of a deal. And I've been through injuries as a dancer, but nothing like on this scale, but I'm just thinking, I can just shake it off eventually. Soon enough, I realized, okay, I think I'm going to need someone else to walk me or to drive me home. I wasn't moving. My leg couldn't move, but I was just breathing through it. I'm like, we're going to be fine. We're going to be fine. Super strong inner talk. And I was like, we're going to have a miracle healing. It's all good. We're fine. But what I realized a few days after having immediate surgery, realizing that I'd shattered my knee, broke my tibia in multiple places. I wouldn't be walking for months. I would be needing to go through PT and rehabilitation. And the doctor said, hey, you'll be able to be totally back to normal in like a year. I'm like, you're just saying this like so nonchalant. A year? Are you kidding me? I have a 2-year-old and I'm an entrepreneur, and like everything started running through my mind, right? And with excruciating pain, we'll add that into the mix. I wasn't in my best flavor, right? Like a few days after surgery, once we got home, I actually was in the hospital for like 4.5 days. So this is like day 5, day 6. And I am feeling so down in the dumps. And I'm like, how did this just happen? Like, God, I was like feeling so high on top of the mountains and now I'm back in the valley. But it came out of nowhere. It was so crazy. And so I get this idea and I hear from God because I'm just so down in the dumps, right? And I hear God say, I'm going to give you unbreakable joy. And you should do an Unbreakable Joy challenge. And you can share this challenge. People can do it with you. And it's going to give you accountability to stay in a positive mindset. I'm like, Lord knows I need it. Okay, let's do it. And it was just like the clearest, most simple instructions I've gotten from God. I loved it. I love when he's clear and simple. Thank you. I always say, yes, louder, clear, and in English. Thank you. For me, right? So I get this message and I'm like, awesome, sounds good. And you know what? I anchored to it and I'm like, all right, yeah, nothing can break my spirit, no circumstance. We were laughing because Sammy's going through health issues with his skin. And we're like screaming in like praise and glory to God. We're like, the enemy, the liar can break my leg and can rip our skin off our bodies, but they're not going to take us down. Because of course in January, like huge kingdom assignments coming in, like really super clear missions on our hearts and all of this stuff. We're like, nothing's going to stop us. And so I would love for this story to just pretty much complete there and tell you how now I'm just doing the podcast and it's been amazing. And like, it's all because God gives me unbreakable joy, right? But unfortunately, that's not the story that I have. So instead of things getting better, once I claimed unbreakable joy, it got worse. Yeah. So Sammy started getting more gigs, and more gigs in the past meant really good things. Like he's an incredible DJ. He's going to incredible rooms, connecting with incredible people. It's always like, yes, go. And a lot of times we as a family travel, but him leaving while I have a broken leg and a 2-year-old and businesses, not the funnest thing. So that starts happening. Gigs start picking up. Then this one afternoon, Sammy's out of town. I realized, okay, wait, my parents are out of town as well. And they live like sort of close, but they come over if needed, but they're out of town, like far. And then I start thinking about all the neighbors that I would usually call if something happens. They're all out of town at someone's 50th birthday that we were supposed to be at. And I'm getting frustrated and I'm realizing, oh my gosh, and I'm now out of pain meds for the first time. And I am not doing well. Let's just say that. I'm not doing well. At this point, my bedroom is in the living room downstairs. I couldn't go up and downstairs. I hadn't showered in weeks. I mean, it is not a pretty sight, right? And I'm just like, wait, what is happening? So I'm calling my girlfriends. I'm like, okay, I need a babysitter, like for me, not for Rafa, for me. But this one night I wake up, or this one night I go to sleep, right? And then I wake up the next morning and you guys, it was so bad. Sorry to get a little graphic here, but I wake up and my leg is wet. This is about a month in to having surgery. Your leg is not really supposed to be wet. It was bandaged and it had all this gauze around it. And all of a sudden it's all wet. And I'm like, this is not good. We end up going to the ER. Luckily, my mom comes back into town and she's able to take me in the next day. I go back into the ER. I find out I get an allergic reaction. Like it's basically like 3rd-degree burns all over my leg. And it's an allergic reaction, super rare to the glue that they use during surgery. Who would have thought? Just crazy stuff. And I'm still like, unbreakable joy. But meanwhile, bawling hysterically because this all sucks. I don't know if you've been there where it's just like, how could this get worse? But of course it can, because the day after I get home from the ER with this allergic reaction, we get a call from the property managers. Now we've been in this house. We rent this beautiful home right by the ocean in Leucadia, Carlsbad area, like northern San Diego. It's amazing. It's a dream home. We love where we are. We've been here for years. The owners haven't lived here in 30 years, but of course, on that day, after I get back from the emergency room, I get a phone call saying, you have 60 days and you got to get out. The owners are moving back in. I immediately looked up if that was legal. I was like, can they kick us out? Like, this is brutal. And we did tell them that I had a broken leg. Anyways, I'm not here to bash on the management company or the owners, although that is a challenge, but it was just the timing of it all, right? It was like, how is this even possible? Like, these are the most stressful things you can go through in one's entire life, like personal injury, loss of job because I all of a sudden couldn't really work. I couldn't go and speak and do my stuff and like think properly. And then moving, right? It was so wild. How was this all stacked upon one another? But I knew throughout all of it, even though there were so many times where I was so upset and so mad, honestly, at the whole situation and other things that I'm not even going to bring up in this call, in this podcast recording, I just knew that God was going to take me through it. He was going to walk with me. And even in the roughest nights where I would wake up in the middle of the night, pretty much that whole first 2 months, I couldn't really sleep. It was so excruciatingly painful. And then the medications would make me wired. And it was just such an awful thing. Anyone that has broken a bone or gone through physical issues, it just tears you down, right? Your health is everything. So I just remember being like this like breaking point. I'm like, God, what is all this about? Like, this is too much for me. This is too much for anyone, really. Like, I'm really strong. I can get through a lot, but this is absolutely too much. So I don't know if you can relate to this. If you've ever had a moment where you're like, I can't imagine this going worse. And then it does. And honestly, at that point, I was in such breakdown that I was almost hysterically laughing because I just couldn't believe it, right? And in the midst of all of that, I started remembering something that I had gone through actually almost a decade prior. So I've shared with you guys about this in my other podcast episodes. But for the sake of my anchor story, I want to share it again, which is I started really remembering the times where I was feeling very suicidal and super depressed and anxious and all of the things of not wanting to be here. And I started feeling like, no, God, please do not take me back there. Like, I cannot go back there. I've said goodbye to that. And I've said that that's all a lie and I can't do it. But all of a sudden, in the midst of everything I'm going through, I'm getting these flashbacks and I'm having these feelings and this trauma is getting reignited within me. And so I'm really like sitting through all of it. And then I'm kind of backtracking my whole story with my car accident. And so what happened that was almost a decade prior was that my life was a mess. It was totally a mess from the inside out. I was dealing with health stuff I didn't even realize I was dealing with, but I had been living this rock and roll lifestyle, touring, going from city to city. We would play around 25 shows a month, and I was in a band with about 5 to 7 other guys. I was the only woman, and it was just so rough. It was so rough. We were barely making ends meet. It felt like I was living this rock star style kind of life, but in reality, like there was just a lot of messiness. My relationships were not connected and not loving and not supportive. There was a lot of substance abuse happening, and things just felt totally out of control. And so before it got to the point where, we had this homecoming show, and I decided, I was like, I was so out of my mind and so upset with some relational dynamics and just not understanding, like, why is this all happening? Why is my ex-boyfriend there? And then this is happening and all, it was just too much, right? And I remember saying the same thing. Like, notice when your mind starts saying and repeating the same patterns. It's really interesting when that happens because there's trauma. There's something that actually just truly wants to be healed, right? I remember saying, this is just too much. And that's what triggered me into even remembering this stuff, while I was going through my leg. And it got to the point where what ended up happening that night that I was talking about, I ended up getting in my car and driving off and racing. I remember going as fast as I could on the car. And I remember just like closing my eyes, and I was done. And I ended up driving my car off the cliff that night, and it rolled down the canyon. And God blessed me by not having me go down the biggest canyon that was right around there that had actually a drop off onto another freeway. But luckily it was a canyon that didn't have too many trees. I had just missed the tree just by a few feet. And by the time that the car stopped rolling, it stopped straight up. And I was actually so confused because I thought I was dreaming, because I had just had an encounter with God. It was the most miraculous thing. But as soon as the car went off the cliff, I lost consciousness. And I remember going to the light and seeing the light and being so excited about the light. And I was like, yes, I'm so done with this life. I'm so over it. And then I heard God, like God's voice, a voice that I had never heard before, the loudest, most impactful, profound voice. And he just said to me so clearly, do you want to stay or do you want to go? I remember saying, I'm ready to go. Like, look at this crazy life that I'm having. Like, this is terrible. I've been asking to leave for so long. And he goes, I know you've been asking to leave. And I'm kind of thinking back to all my childhood traumas. Every time I'm like, just get me out of here. This is so, I don't want to live, right? In that instance, when I said, yes, I want to go, God so graciously flashed before my eyes my future family, husband, my future business, my future impact, the future me. I couldn't believe my eyes of what he showed me, the love, the care, and the impact that was going to be had. And I knew in an instant that this was not my time to leave. And immediately I dropped back into my body and I rolled in the car a few times and then we landed straight up. So by the time we landed, I just got out of the car. I thought I was dreaming. I was like, this is the weirdest thing. This is the craziest thing. I just got right out. And then I look around and I'm like slapping my face to try and get myself to wake up. And I end up crawling up the canyon. I don't even look at the car, honestly. I was like, So I crawl up the canyon and right there, I see a man. Now, I'm going to pause for the sake of the anchor story, and I'm going to continue this story in the next episode of who this man was. But what happened during that time was just so intense, right? So brutal that I think it was a year or two after that, I find myself in this room and we're doing a lot of personal work and we're looking at kind of what has happened in the past to create the stories that we're living out now. And I'm sitting across this guy and we're sharing why we're both here. And I'm not talking about my car accident at all, right? This is something that I keep to myself. Like, this is not a cool thing. I'm sharing about other stuff. And he looks at me and he goes, I'm here because my son committed suicide. I think it was like 2 weeks ago. 2 weeks ago. And I'm here because I'm ready to make a nonprofit and work on this mission. Okay, you couldn't just imagine my heart and my belly. My heart sank. My belly wanted to like get sick. I couldn't believe it. And in that moment, I was just like, what? And he had a smile on his face. And I was like, how are you surviving this? He goes, well, the only way that I can get myself out of bed is to know that I'm working on a mission that is going to help others. So this thing that happened to my son doesn't get wasted. Oh my goodness, did that hit me? And I'm remembering this with my broken leg and I'm thinking, oh yeah, God told me that I'm going through this because I'm going to help others along the way. And they need to hear this story and they need to understand what I've walked through. And I'm going to support others along the way in that. And so I was like, what? While this is all happening, I'm like, God, what? He's like, yeah, you're going to write books. You're going to speak. And at that point, I'm not doing any of this, right? And he's like, yeah, you're going to do it. I'm like, okay, whatever you say, God, because you just saved me. So yes. But it was still just such a shock. So anyways, I get to this place where I have my broken leg and I'm having these memories flood in. I took you through this, not just for your own strength, but so you'll have a story to help others. Just start documenting it. And I'm remembering, oh yeah, okay, this is why he's having me do Unbreakable Joy Challenge. Okay, like I'm getting this. And meanwhile, I start looking at the people that are sending me texts and messages and videos. I got probably over 100 messages doing Unbreakable Joy Challenge. It was so profound and incredible. And I got strength going through this time because of everyone else's messages. It totally was not my own. Like if I was just doing Unbreakable Joy myself, honestly, I would have fallen off. And there were many days where I didn't do my own challenge, right? And then someone would text me or remind me and I'm like, oh yes. And it really reminded me of the collective strength we have when we use our words and pour into each other and pull each other forward, especially through the tough times. And so I did come out of that unbreakable. And for sure, I'm standing here speaking to you, doing this podcast even because I have unbreakable joy. And it was one of the biggest gifts God has ever given me to show me what it's like to remember my deepest why and to remember that the stories and the things that I go through are really for other people, therefore activating me to even make this podcast. Like, how cool is that? So it goes even deeper into something so unique where I was sitting there journaling. And now I'm feeling a little bit better, right? And I'm thinking about how we serve clients. And I'm thinking about Unbreakable Joy. And I'm like, I just want to do everything Unbreakable Joy. I'm like, why? Why do I love this so much? And I'm like, because it's like everlasting, it's like connects you to eternity, like this unbreakable spirit, right? And I start thinking, but that's what I build. And those are the people that I serve. The people that I most love to serve are the ones that have been through crazy stuff and know, and they have received the same message. They know that they have gone through it to come out on the other side to serve others with their story. And I'm like, oh my goodness, yes, this is just amazing. This is like, it's connecting the dots. And then I start thinking, and the thing that I get to bring to the table as a business strategist, as someone who has studied sales and marketing, online, in person, speaking, all of this stuff. And I sit there and I just had this huge hit from God. And I was like, I help build unbreakable brands. That's what this is all about. It's working with people that have an unbreakable spirit, and then we create their unbreakable brand. And here's the thing, God always has a good plan. It's up to us to trust it and to speak it out and to speak through it and to walk through it, right? So those are my people, and those are the brands that do last. It is the Nikes, it is the Apples, it is the Patagonias of our day are the ones that are so unbreakable because their message is so strong and powerful, and it hits you in the heart. And if you've ever been through anything that has torn you down, but you've survived it for a reason, that reason is probably going to unlock the next level of business, of impact, of influencership, right? It's always right there in the depths, in the valleys where seeds get planted. They bloom on the mountaintops, but they get planted in those valleys. I know there's a reason why we go from surviving to impact. There is a clear road there. And that is what I love doing, is amplifying the stories that impact the world and create unbreakable brands that build unbreakable spirits. The spirits that stay true to God and love and peace. What I found through this journey of being a business strategist is I did stumble upon the joy of podcasting. This has been the unbreakable thing in my business. This has been the one thing that even when I'm pregnant, even if I'm shifting my business, I still love this platform so much because I think it's one where we truly get to connect. It's not about likes. It's not about swipes. It's about actually really listening to one another and getting so inspired and moving on that behalf. So there you have it. There is my anchor story with a few little windy navigations, but I wanted to give it to you guys so that way you could get a full example of what that's like. Now, you might be thinking like, how did you so clearly craft all of that? Well, guess what? We have a framework. They don't call me an expert for nothing, right? So I use the binge framework. This is a proprietary framework that is connected with Evolve Podcasting, me and my husband Sammy's podcast production and consulting agency. And I have a guess that if you're on the other side, you're probably saying, well, what is the binge framework? So don't worry, we will get there. Just keep walking with me, stay in touch with me. Let me know how this podcast helped you, served you in finding your own anchor story and figuring out how you can share it with your people. Your voice carries weight, not just for today, but for eternity. If this episode stirred something in you, don't keep it to yourself. Share it, speak it, let it ripple. If you're ready to launch a platform that amplifies your message and multiplies your impact, I'm here to help. Start your journey with the link in the show notes down below. Subscribe, leave a review, and remember, when you speak with fire, you don't just shake the earth, you echo in heaven.